Oh, YouTube ought to love this one. 2002 Chevrolet, of course. It's a big 1-ton. It's a big 3500. Nasty old flatbed diesel. And customer complaint is the rear tank is full of fuel, front tank's empty, and it won't transfer. They forgot the minor detail that it pisses diesel fuel everywhere. Of course, it's 4 degrees outside, so foolishly I got this thing running yesterday, pulled it in, and come into my shop flooded with diesel fuel this morning, so it's leaking out of this rear pump. Now, is this the transfer problem? Is this why it won't fill the front tank? I don't know, but we need to resolve the fuel leak first of all. So I grabbed the old 16 mil and I cracked the nuts loose on both sides of the fuel line, but their nuts are frozen to the fuel line, so I can't get the pump out without getting the nuts loose. And there's too much fuel leaking to break out the torch. So we're going to do the next best thing. A little trick Meemaw taught me here. We're going to wrap this little guy around here. We're going to send some current through it with the old induction heater here. Try to get these nuts. Get them red hot, or at least hot enough to break off from the line, so we can get this pump out of here. And then if there's any more diagnosing beyond this, we'll get her done. Okay, here we go. Keep your extinguisher handy. Let's see what we can do here. Mostly just want to heat up the fuel line. Gotta get it in the loop, man. Get in the loop, man! Oh, I see some sizzling, boys. I just don't want it to burn up the insulation on the wires here. Oh, we're sizzling now. So this is the great thing about induction heaters. I don't use it often, but when I do, I'm usually doing something sketchy. The torch is always way faster. My preference would be just to grab a torch and heat this up. With the line being full of fuel, it's probably not going to heat very well here. It's all, like I say, it's already broke loose from the pump. We're just trying to crack it loose from the line. So I'm looking to see if I see any sizzling on the line here. All right, let's see if this worked. Come on, little fella. Just gotta get it out of the way. Come on. Grab your 16, grab your 19. Let's see what we got, boys. Nope, she's still frozen on the damn line. I just don't know if we're gonna get enough heat into that line. Usually you gotta get these nuts just red. Well, let's try it again. This was the purpose of the jail. Might have to come up with something different as far as, it's a little bit tight working quarters back here is the problem. She's a little snug. So trying to get everything out of the way when we're ready to move it to crack the line is a little difficult, but let's just see what happens. We'll try again. If we get one side off, then we can just spin the filter out of the way. And then we should be in good shape, but frigger, come on, man. Frick the rest of the junk. There she goes. Yes, sir. All right, let's get this out of the way. I'm pretty sure I saw that side crack loose. Pretty sure. Not positive, but pretty sure. Yes, sir. Look at that. That's right, old son. Boom. Okay. Yeah, huzzah. The problem is, right now our leak is manageable. I don't have the new pump in my hands, so I'm going to leave this line hooked up. The new pump's supposed to be here in a couple hours. The napper's going to pick it up for me at another store when they meet for their midday transfer or late morning transfer. So we're going to leave this one snugged. We'll take that one off. We'll cut the wires off the pump. We'll spin the pump off, get the new pump in there, and see if this resolves the transfer issue. Hopefully, but well. The new pump showed up. I thought it was going to be a disaster, and I got distracted. And I came over here and took it out real quick. Neglected to get my people, which that's you. Now we're putting the beans to it. We're trying to get that side loosened up there, which shouldn't take much. Ah, yeah, tough guy, huh? Well, let me get that before we take it to the stupid level here. This is a very snug spot. I'm going to take the O-ring off. I'm going to set that down. Now we're going to take it to the stupid level. I just want to get this nut moving on the line here and make it going back together a wee bit easier. If I'm able. The old lines, she's a glower. We got a glower. The whole thing's red. The nut's red, the line's red. If you don't believe me, whoa. We got a glower. Usually when we hit glow status, they'll crack right loose. There she is. Way to cooperate. Part of me wants to just touch it. But I know better. Everybody's saying, how come this guy doesn't just get a socket and stick over the end of it? I don't know. Because I walked over here with a wrench, that's why. Now for the fun part. The making smoke part. Oh, that's a fun. If that's not the funnest part of your day, I don't know what is. Mechanics are like, why can't I breathe? Why do my lungs hurt so much? Oh, look at that. We got a wiggler now, boys. Let me just wiggle that up a little bit. We have to wait for it to cool down. It's a little on the hot side. more than likely the next time, if there is a next time for this thing to need a pump, it's hot. That's going to leave a mark. The next time this needs a pump, it's also going to need lines. There we go. Got the old nut wiggling on that one. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I'm gonna let it cool down, put the O-ring on it, and I'm gonna slide this pump right in. I got a Delphi pump here from Delphi. It says Delphi Technologies, HFP Hotel Foxtrot Papa 955, and this is the outside. Get it? The outside of the pump. It's gonna go in like that. Boom. I guess we could probably. The one side's not. It's hot. Ouch. Guide me in, baby. There we go. I think it'll go in. Yeah, we can still get that O-ring on. The other one. It's kind of difficult working one-handed here. There we go. Yes, sir. So we'll keep our wires like that. But we'll clean out that connection there. So you got, I think it's diesel fuel, probably penetrating oil because I was up here like a wild man. Now these O-ring fittings, you don't have to go wild on. I think they're called the bell flare, the GM bell flare. I actually have a tool that makes that flare, that makes that connection, that fitting. Used to use it back in the day, back in the throttle body days. If you remember the throttle body days, they used to use these back when you used to have to make fuel lines the old-fashioned way. It's still hot. Oh. No, I can touch it now, kinda. See if we can touch it long enough to put an O-ring on it. Idiot, been easier without fuel pump in the way. Get up on there. Get up on there. It's up and on there. Ooh, hello. Did I not have that started? What the flip? Is it started now? It looks like it's nice and straight. Well, let's see. I hate making cross threads on camera. It's embarrassing. It feels like it's straight. Straight enough. I don't even know what you guys can see over there. I think I have you propped up in the general direction, but the frickin', I don't know if you have the exhaust plate. Somebody cut the exhaust plate a little down spot on it. So it's right in the way. There's just not room for all of us under here. Hopefully this fixes the problem. I frickin' hate working on diesels, dude. I quit doing this stuff 25 years ago when I left my dad's shop. Everything's stinky and dirty. I used to be pretty good at working on, but of course I worked on mostly big trucks. I'm just not cut out for that kind of work. Worked on big trucks and equipment. Well, I tell you what, man, that was guys who work in a big diesel shop. Bravo, man, bravo. I don't have the physical stature to do that kind of stuff. If I'm being honest, let's go get something. Get that a little toot. Plug it up. We'll cut the key on. See if it fixed all of his issues here. Otherwise, we're going to have to get into the theory and operation of fuel balance, slosh modules, that kind of stuff. What it takes to transfer from rear tank to front tank and keep them equal. Alright, let's see here. Will this auto detect the O2? Yeah, I think it may. So O2 GMC 3500. the low fuel level light is on. The guy assures me that the front tank is about half, and he also said the rear tank is full to the tippy top. And then this happened, you know, all of a sudden. That's not an automatic, but it's a manual. We just want to get in and selected all the wrong stuff. We're going to reset it because we don't want it. I don't think it'll go looking for it, but we'll just be sure here. I think she's federal. It is a manual trainee. The low fuel light came on at the exact time this had to fall. So I don't know if it has problems with fuel senders or what the story is, or if that's just a default strategy in this system. And honestly, without looking, I don't even really know what controls it right now, but let's just see what we have for codes. And we'll see. Okay, so we have a couple codes. Mass airflow, fuel level, performance, fuel sensor 2, dang. Okay, 1431. Let me look that up. I'll tell you what, before we look it up, let's just pop live data. And let's just see if we can see these. And maybe because it's a performance code, perhaps it's because it hasn't seen a reduction when it's commanding this pump on. So let's see if we can find fuel level. Okay. Fuel level sensor 76%. Fuel level sensor rear tank if equipped 2.5 volts. That seems to be probably within range. So he told me that the front tank was around 3/4 of a tank. That's pretty accurate guess because he says he reset the trip. He's only got 100 miles on the front tank, 24-gallon tank. Thought it was around possibly 3/4 of a tank, if you had to guess. And I don't know if this, where it says fuel level, if this is the front tank or if this is the rear tank, because they're showing fuel level sensor rear at 2.47. Now, if that sensor was shorted or opened, we would not see the 2.5 volts. How about this? Can we activate that pump? I don't know what pump this one is talking about here. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's that one on the, that's one we just did. Here, it just got fuel in it. She's clicking way back there. Do we have a fuel level sensor? Let's turn it off. I don't remember. I don't remember what the level set was. At 2.5 volts. Let's just double check here before we start pumping stuff here. Okay, 2.45, and we'll say 75. All right. So let's go back to active test. Engine, fuel pump. Let's let her percolate for a minute. 245 and 75%. And so we'll let that go. I don't think we're going to find fuel level in here, but we're going to look. Nope. So let's just let her click away for a little bit. All right, let me look on the inside. Let me just check the gas gauge here. All right, so the gas gauge is still reading 0. I don't know what the volume is of that pump, but let's turn it off. Let's jump back into live data. And then let's go back to level, fuel level. 245, 76%. I don't know how much I would have to let it transfer. And now it's up to 77. I'm gonna let it go for a little bit. I just wanna see if I can do this without a whole lot of research. Here's the other thing, let's do this. I wanna see if my fuel gauge comes back. We know what the code is, so we're gonna clear the code. Because I think it's the default. I think when there's a problem with the level sensor, it defaults the fuel gauge to empty to say, hey, we're having a problem here. 1431. We're gonna back out like this. We're gonna clear those. We're gonna hit yes. Oh, interesting. We didn't turn it on, it just turned itself on. Now let me go look at, let's go look on the inside here, folks. Let's do this live. Let's see if all of a sudden the fuel gauge is now working and it's balancing itself out. Where's the fuel gauge? Oh yeah, look, right up there. Boom, fuel gauge is working now. The little pump in the back is running, and it's balancing itself out. That all makes sense. It all makes sense to me now. Good. Good, because now we don't have to look anything up and we don't have to know anything. We can just do some big fat guessing, use some theories. We're gonna go here, we're gonna go fuel level. And we should see, we're gonna say show selected. And then we should see a change here. I don't know at what point it balances, you know, where the cutoff is. And it's probably gonna be too slow to see here over time, but we'll let her peter away, see what happens. It should shut off on its own. So I just walked back over here and I see we had like a little spike. That's probably a little hitch and it's giddy up in the front sensor, would be my assumption, but we can see our voltage is going down on the rear tank. I wish it showed voltage for both of them, or at least a percentage, because, you know, obviously the fuel level sensor there has a little bit of a glitch in it, or was hanging up and then bounced or something. Fuel level sensors oftentimes don't work smooth, we'll say, and that's why we have slosh modules or balance modules. They keep your gas gauge nice and steady. It just takes the average of the mess, we'll say. We'll let her keep pumping away here. All right, folks, I just heard it kick off. What are we at? 88%. Without looking into theory and operation, I'm assuming it just balances the front and rear tank together, kicks on as necessary. Perhaps there's a certain percentage of variance between the two it lets it get before it runs the pump, so it's not just constantly kicking it on. Hard to say. I'm not curious enough to look into it any further than this. Let me just make sure it didn't generate any codes and shut off for that reason. All right, no codes, so perfect. You know, if this was stuff that I worked on every day, I may look it up, but at the end of the day, we could look it up. And I'm sure that info is in service data, but we made some good educated guesses as far as, you know, first of all, I see a code that's listed as a performance code. All right, now, General Motors is pretty good about that kind of stuff. Or a lot of manufacturers are, whether they set a, you know, a circuit code, you know, circuit high low, or a performance code. Performance code usually says, hey, the sensor's working, but we're not seeing the value that we expect to see. If I was a computer talking, because that's how computers talk. They say, hey, we're not seeing what I expect to see. Boom, light. You know, sensor's there. We got the pump on. It should be wiggling, but nothing's wiggling. And it can't tell if that pump's bad or if the pump's leaking or anything. You know, the pump was probably bad electrically, but it's likely commanded by a relay. And if the control side of that relay's working, it's got no idea if that circuit's working. At least a car that is this old. You know, this is an 02. You know, this thing's antique. Imagine that, 02, right? You know, what is it? Yeah, it's 24 years old, man. One more year, this thing's considered a classic. And it gets a, you know, if it was a gas engine, it'd be a safety only, exempt from emissions in New York. 25 years old. But, anywho, how old did I say it was? 24 years old, yeah, ish, 24, 22. So, that's how I look at that, and that's how we just kind of hash that out. I don't know what there was much to learn from this video. Maybe people who live outside of New York are having a problem with their diesel, and, you know, fuel transfer issue, setting that performance code, and that's that. I'm sure it can be other things, but we got lucky. We fixed the obvious problem, the big fuel leak, which happened to also be the problem with the, you know, with balancing the two tanks. So Anyhow, why don't you guys do that little balancing act that you like to do down in that comment section. Insta, Facebook, and just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.